Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast, round 17 review show. Myself and Jake along for this one. Tell you what, it was a weekend. It was a weekend of results, some great wins, some upsets, a bit of everything over the weekend. A few teams have started to show some really good form, a couple of slipping even further down. And more question marks continue to arise for certain teams, which we'll discuss all those talking points tonight. Again, I got myself, I've got Jake along for this one. How's your weekend, mate? Off the top, there was another game out there that happened over the weekend. I know he's waiting for me to say something about it. Jake made his his re-debut.
It's a club debut.
Club debut. Condobolin Rams, I believe that's what they're called, aren't they? And look, we've heard it all afternoon in the chats about every excuse under the sun. Just going to call it out now. Jake was shit, and his team was shit. Jake realised how big he is at the moment. He's a bit unfit. Got the legs done, but Jake, it wasn't a debut to remember.
It was all right. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was terrible. God, you weren't even there. You don't even know. You didn't see it.
Your scoreline was what, 44-10?
Yeah, talk it out of your ass. Look, there was 42-10, so it wasn't great. I'll fully come out and admit that. But you know what? We were 5 on the trot before that, and it's time to the boys have all admitted they're ready to go again for next week, and so it just is what it is. You know, these things happen. Let's get back to it.
What is this? Is this an A grade or what?
Yeah, mate. No, so it's called Woodbridge Cup. It's like out here, like all the different rural towns kind of thing, all play against each other kind of thing. So it's not really like, I'd argue it's probably like above reserve grade if you talk about it, and then like below Div 1 kind of thing.
So what was the team called you lost to today?
The Manildra Rhinos.
Go Manildra. Go the Rhinos. Anyone from the Rhinos, next time you play the Rams, if you absolutely give it to Jake, I'll send you out a couple of coolers. I'll send you a League of Inches shirt and a hat. But I'll have to have it on camera. I want to have it on camera. So there's a challenge there right now. So I want to see this next time.
You're cool.
This is awesome. Anyway, let's get into it. Shout out to the Caxton Street Brewing. Shout out to the Caxton Street Brewing Company. Thank you once again for their support, the major sponsor of the podcast. Awesome there on the weekend. I saw a lot of the vibe, and it was pumping. Obviously, 2 games at Suncorp on the Saturday, and the street was absolutely flowing like if it was a Magic Round. It was awesome to see. So the results from the weekend. So we've got the Penrith Panthers beating the Doggies 8 points to 6, Manly overcoming the Tigers 28-10. The Raiders too good for a very brave Knights. I'll say that, 22-18. The Broncos 26 beating the Warriors 12. And looks like Lukey Met has that ACL, which is a huge blow for the Warriors. The Dragons overcoming the Eels in a very brave performance by the Dragons. Very disappointing first half by the Eels, 34 points to 10. The Dolphins cracked the 50 mark the 3rd time in 4 weeks. Absolutely ridiculous. 50 points to 28 over the Bunnies. The Storm today got it done against the Sharkies, 30 points to 6. And there's plenty of question marks now around that Cronulla Sharks side. And the Cowboys got it done just over a valiant Titans, 30 points to 24. Have a look at the ladder. The Raiders move into the top spot. They are equal on 28 points with the Bulldogs. Only the 1 bye so far, though. So the Raiders are sitting at an amazing spot at the moment. Effectively, if you add all the buys in, they're 2 wins clear at the top, which is absolutely huge for the Raiders. The Doggies second, 28 points. Then the Storm alone on 26 points. The Warriors starting to slide on 24 points. A little bit of concerns there around the Warriors. Broncos and Roosters on 20 points. The Penrith Panthers 19. The Dolphins on 18 points, rounding out the top 8. Manly and the Sharks are both on 18 points. And so are the Dragons. The Cowboys, 17 points. The Newcastle Knights, Tigers, Eels, and Rabbits are all on 14. And the Titans still at the bottom of the ladder with 12 points. What stands out to you regarding that ladder, Jake?
Oh, I mean, the obvious one, I think, is that the Panthers are back. they're back in the 8. They've been in great form over the last few weeks. And that's scary. They've been in actually very, very scary form, and obviously they beat who were top of the comp. That's huge. So that's my big one for the week, I think. The other one we've talked about before, I suppose, is Roosters, that they're still up there and holding strong. So they're my 2.
I'll just say I think for mine, it's the Raiders. Just being now that top spot, and I think they've been that top team for a few weeks, in my opinion. It's good to see how they finally got that after obviously a Bulldogs loss. The buys are starting to balance themselves out. Look, the Dogs and the Storm have now had 3 buys each. The Raiders only had that 1 buy, and there's a real chance, like I said earlier, that they can go 2 wins clear at the top of this ladder once it all gets equaled out. Which is they're just showing how good of an all-rounded team that they are at the moment. Excitement in the back, some speed out there as well, some skill and maturity in the halves with Fogarty, with Strange providing that excitement factor, and their forward pack is easily the best forward pack in the competition, in my opinion, all around. So, and they're getting some awesome impact off their bench. So, fantastic effort there by the Canberra Raiders. First talking point of the night. Got to go all the way back to Thursday night. I just want to talk about that Penrith and Dogs game for a little bit. What an absolutely cracking contest, Jake. I feel like it's fair to say match of the year so far.
Yeah, I think I could make the case for that being match of the year. And it's interesting because sometimes you have those low scoring games and you kind of go, you know what, like that was just boring. But it was a low scoring game between 2 top quality sides. So you're looking at like just constant football. Like they weren't dropping it. They just were going like, set for set, just not dropping that ball. And it was just a grind out till the end. Dogs were unfortunate not to finish it off right in that last play at the end of the game to win it. But, these things happen. But, yeah, it had everything. Despite not having heaps of tries, it had great defense. The tries were so hard to come by. So it was so, I suppose, rewarding as somebody watching the game when they did. Like, it was so exciting kind of thing. So that was, it was a fantastic game of footy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Look, I'm going to say it. And this is going to be controversial, and I'm going to cop some heat for this. I get it. We put a bit of a post out there, bit of a tongue-in-cheek one, obviously about McLean and Crichton. Good little bit of fun, good funny post. A lot of great reactions, a lot of laughter, a lot of things like that. One thing I'm going to say at the moment to Bulldogs fans, and I love you. I love what you're doing at the moment. I love how passionate you are. I love the crowd figures. I love everything. But one thing you've got to start doing a little bit better, being so passionate and loud, is being able to cop it a little bit. When your team does lose and you've been so out there, you've got to start being able to actually cop that and not going straight away into the whole how dare you type thing, so defensive. And you're going to go out there and give it, you've got to take it a bit. And literally, there's a number of Dogs fans so far, whether it was on the post or whether it was messaging the page, things like that want to have a bit of a go. I find it very funny because you've been riding high for so long. When you're up there, take it as, if anything, take it as a positive that your team is now in this position where that sort of thing is out there and getting interaction. People are talking about it because 18 months ago, this wouldn't have been the case. The Dogs weren't there. We're nowhere near it. And now we're cheering the fact that they are there. So I think it's a positive. But again, just to one out there for the Bulldogs fans, it's time to just chill a little bit, please. Chill a little bit because, like you said, Jay, the game itself was sensational. It was a really, really top quality game. Semi-finals atmosphere for sure. Honestly, on the day, that would not surprise me if that was the grand final. That's how good that game was, to have both those teams back and forth. Like, I feel like there's a thing at the moment in our game, and there's this vibe about wanting to make it like a 30-40 scoreline, and that's excitement. That's a good game. This, for mine, showed, and everyone I've spoken to so far have been like, yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. I was loving it. Not even Penrith or Dogs fans. They just loved the game, and it was, look at the scoreline. It wasn't one of those high-scoring games. It was back and forth, pure rugby league, where the smallest mistakes in the end were punished, and it came down to a huge play by Nathan Cleary, and the Penrith Panthers won it. It just shows you that style of football game is what we still love, and it still has a huge part in this game.
Yeah, 100%. I've always been partial to a defensive game. Like, I actually quite like a low scoring, high intensity game. It can't be a low scoring, crap fest where they're dropping the ball and there's errors and penalties and whatever. Because that's obviously, no one wants to watch all these stoppages and no one wants to watch that. But I liked the intensity. I thought that it was, honestly, I said this as I was watching it to my partner. I said, I think that this is Origin level intensity. To be fair, I think that it's it could be an Origin game. That's how like full on and set for set and like grindy it was. And there has to be a place in the game for that. I know that with the higher tempo and the way that the game sped up, it's losing its place a little bit. Those low intensity games, but when they do happen, and they are rare, but when they do happen, it's refreshing. It feels like old rugby league is back.
Yeah, no, for sure. There was a dilemma now for the Bulldogs, and it was clear to see, I think, on the weekend. The week before that was when Burton was, or 2 weeks before that, sorry, that was when Burton was in Origin, so Galvin started, but then the week before that, his club debut, I gave him the benefit of the doubt because it's his first game there, and he had, 2 or 3 training sessions there, so it is what it is. This week was the first time where we've seen it, I feel like, properly. He's been there now for, about a month. We've seen how it all has worked in. Read some of the headlines regarding some of the other key spine players like Marnie and Sexton. This Galvin, I'll call it what it is. It's a dilemma now for the Bulldogs, and I feel like it's going to be a very awkward thorn and in the side for this Bulldogs outfit at the moment. I'll say right now, I don't have the answer because for mine, the answer in a weird way is Galvin doesn't get a spot in this 17 at the moment. That's for mine the awkward answer to what's happening at the moment, because on the weekend I thought they played their best football when it was their traditional spine in place, when it was Tracy out the back, when it was Burton, Sexton in the halves, and Marnie was controlling things quite nicely, actually, I thought, in and around the ruck. I thought he was having a really good game. And then Galvin came on and he sort of just wasn't quite into it. And it is hard. It's hard for a half to come in off the bench once the game is flowing. Once it was one of those back and forth games where if you're not in that back and forth from the get-go, it's very hard to adjust to. You want to go on there and put your foot down and make your mark on the game and be the reason that your team wins it. It wasn't that style of game. It was one of those ones where you had to just float into the game and naturally something will evolve for you if it does. And Galvin didn't quite do that, I thought. And I don't want to put too much pressure on him. He's a kid. He's a big name signing, though, a big money signing for the Bulldogs. And the question is going to get louder and louder, Jake. What happens here with Galvin and where and how do you play him?
I just think the biggest thing is if they're going to do the bringing him off the bench, it can't be for Marnie. Because Marnie in that game was like not only solid, he was organizing the attack and he had them moving around the park very well. And he's an out and out hooker. So to switch Sexton into it feels like they're trying not to make Sexton unhappy by keeping him on. And I understand that there's talk about Marnie going somewhere else and whatever, and I get all of that. But at the same time, at the moment you've got him, and at the moment you're in a premiership push. Like if you're in the shot to win a premiership, you can't be playing to make someone happy in the future if it's not going to win you games now. And I think that what they're doing by shifting Marnie off onto the bench and putting Sexton into hooker is the wrong call. I just think if they're going to shift Galvin on, and if that's what they want, if they want to bring in like a fresh half with X Factor for 15 minutes, sweet. That's not that bad of an option. Just Sexton off. Come have a breather. That's simple as. You had a good 60 minutes. Here comes Galvin, 20 minutes, as fresh as he can. He get around the park, go as hard as he wants. Sweet. I actually think that's not a terrible solution. Just you can't be shifting an out-and-out hooker off, especially not when he's having a game like that, in a game like that. In a grindy game like that, yes, bring on an X Factor, sure, but don't do it for your, the member of your spine in the middle who's doing the most defense. When it's a defensive-based game, you'd want Reed Marnie on there.
And the thing is, you're going to risk Sexton at the moment, who's in, for mine, career best form. And this is now going into the business end of the season where sorry to bring it up again, but this is where the Bulldogs did falter last year. That last 2 or so weeks of their season into the first finals game was they had a hiccup, and they just couldn't really catch up from that hiccup. You don't want to be impacting what's happening and what's working so far. Like, you're leading the comp for a reason before this weekend, and it was because of the style of play. It was because of the no nonsense play that Sexton was bringing, but he was going above and beyond with that. His kicking game was amazing. You don't want to risk him moving position midway through the game and starting to lose what's been working for him so long, because whether he's there or not next year, by all reports, he won't be there next year. Right now, the Dogs have a real serious chance of winning this competition this year, and they've got to realize that halfback, and I'm sure they probably already have realized it, but that is probably the most important position on the field. You do not muck around with your halfback, whether there's apart from if there's an injury or it's seriously bad form. And Sexton has neither of those. So it's just head scratching at the moment, while first place would impact this so much. It doesn't make sense. And this isn't Bulldogs bashing either. I don't want to be Bulldogs bashing. It's just this is how it shows on paper. This is
I think, like I said, the only other option, because obviously we're talking, what do you do with him? Like you said, obviously he could go back into reserve grade until this year's done, and then they really work out what they need to do best with him. And then he's just a freaky cover. Then you've just got a freaky cover half for the year, and that's not a bad thing. Having a depth half like Galvin in there for the rest of this year is huge. The other option is, like I said, you either swap. If Sexton's, you switch whichever half is just not making as much of an impact on the game at the time. Like, if Burton's not having that big of an impact, switch. That's who you switch in. Like, I think it needs to be like it needs to be based off of what's happening in the game. Potentially,
I think a huge call is made in the next week or two, because Bailey Hayward, I believe, is back. I don't know where he's been the last week or so, but he's been one of their better players. So he has to be back into that team. I can't see anything of an injury. I'm on NRL.com. Can't see an injury there for him.
He played against the Panthers.
He did? Where did he play? Hang on. I don't think hang on. We've got to double check this, because apologies, ladies and gentlemen. No, he didn't. I knew he didn't. Oh, wait, no, he was 13. Sorry, no, he was locked. Yeah, sorry, he was locked. Okay, no, what I'm saying with that is Jamin Salmon is due back in round 20. So very, very soon. So there's sort of like another little domino, because Jamin Salmon will be in this side. He's been huge for the Bulldogs since getting to the Dogs. He'll be in that side somewhere. I believe probably back to lock where he did start. Man will come onto that field and play there. Hayward needs to split in the bench. It was working fine. So there's also, I don't think they can carry Gavin on the bench for too much longer, is what I'm trying to say. So I feel like there's another big call coming in the next probably 2 weeks. And I'm feeling like this is going to be Sexton getting dropped, and I absolutely hate it. And I feel like I'll go as far as saying, if it does happen, how high I am on the Dogs will all of a sudden really decline quite quickly, because it's just, for mine, unnecessary. And I think it'll change a lot of what their Dogs are doing.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. The only other real option you could do, it's hard. You're going to have to drop someone. Someone gets dropped. And the other options you'd have are Harry Hayes, Kurt Mann, and Josh Curran. Hayes has been playing pretty good footy. Curran hasn't. He's been, solid off the bench kind of thing. I was just thinking the only other real option you could potentially, I know, the only real other option you'd have is potentially, because obviously you said Salmon drops into 13, Bailey Hayward drops to the bench. You'd carry Galvin and Hayward, and whichever one of the three, Man, Hayes, or Curran, you decide to drop. I don't know who that sort of would be. If this is just an option, I'm not going to be specific on this one, but like, you could then potentially shift Galvin into a lock role where then there's 3 halves in the field if you need an X factor. That's the kind of, because then Hayward can play. No, Hayward can play in hooker. So then, if they're already shifting money off anyway, and you want a defensive hooker to come in, that's what you'd do. You'd bring Hayward into there. That's the only real other option I could see, and it's not great. Like I said, you're gonna have to drop somebody. So that's a tough one. Final answer for me is you keep Galvin in that 14 role for the next until Salmon's back. You test out how they go with Salmon back in and drop him out for the week. See how they kind of roll from there. They figure it out from there, and then, obviously they'll have to go from there. My current call is keep him in the 14, straight swap for Sexton or straight swap for Burton. Don't muck around with the rest of it.
My final call on this one moving forward is I would play Galvin in reserves. I know that's quite harsh and probably won't happen, but for mine, you can't mess with a winning formula. It's been working. Let it continue. If for some reason you start seeing things like it's not, make the big call and bring in Galvin for one of either Sexton or Burton. We all know that'll probably be Sexton, but for mine, you give Sexton every chance to keep him pressing while he is. And the moment he drops the ball, he then does get dropped. But for now, doesn't warrant it at all. Let's the Manly game. So if you Manly versus the Tigers, I want to apologise to every rugby league fan out there on behalf of the NRL. I wish there was an apology for this because that first half was probably the worst game for our first half of football I've ever watched in my life. That was I wish I had a nail and stuck it in my eye. That was a shocking half of football. The fact they scored with about 2 minutes to go was demoralising because it deserved a 0-0 scoreline. That half deserved a 0-0 scoreline. To then come out and score 32 points in the second half, thank you for at least waking us up a little bit. Shocking half. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's been on my chest all weekend. How frustrating that game was to watch. I wish I didn't watch it. It was painful. Just on Turbo, there's a lot spoken about Turbo last week. He's changed to centre, him appearing to not be happy. We spoke about this last week. We had our say, so I'm not going back there. But what I'll say on this centre experiment, I think it worked. I definitely think it works, especially from the Turbo point of view. I know Hopewadi probably didn't have his best game. I think there's definitely room for improvement, but that's a positive. To be honest, I felt a bit for Hoppe. There's been a huge week of media talk, not regarding him directly, but it has to do with him, and that could be a lot. You're coming in, basically taking the place of a club legend, a guy that's had remarkable games at fullback and probably felt a bit of the pressure there. I think he'll be better for the run. Keep an eye on him the next couple of weeks. But for Turbo's point of view, the centre, he was everywhere. He felt like he was playing both sides of the field, trying to be part of the ball, which was great to see. If I'm a Manly fan, I'm really happy about that mind frame from Turbo, that he wasn't kicking stones. He was out there doing his bit for the team because Turbo's performance for mine really helped Manly get this win. I thought it was a great game from Turbo, and it just shows you that this centre experiment for mine would be something that I'd continue on with. And I definitely think it has huge potential to work.
Oh, that's what I said when we talked about it last time. I do agree with you. I think that he's dangerous. He's going to be like similar. I think that in short bursts is the best way to use him at the moment, considering the way he's been playing and the injury sort of risk, I suppose, that he carries. He's obviously tall enough, so you can target him for kicks. If you have Garrick on because Garrick was on his side, if I'm not mistaken. Just double checking that one. Yeah. So great kick target options for them, like guaranteed kick target options. If you kick it a little bit short to him, so that's great. But also, he still has speed, and we know that he can ball play, so he's a perfect option. And Lehi was being wasted on the wing anyway. The tries he was scoring, don't get me wrong, fantastic, but a lot of the time it was stuff that an out-and-out winger could score. It didn't need to be him. It was good. It gave him time to get used to the NRL, but I think now is a great time to do this. And like we said last time, Seabold's on a lifeline here. Like he's on, death door. He needs to sort something out. And as bad as it looked in the first half, maybe a little bit janky, the Manly Seagulls. Seabold has obviously said something in the sheds because they've come out and they've just absolutely dominated the second half. I don't know what happened to the Tigers. They just know that they were playing that good in the first half, but they just didn't come out to play. So there's actually not that much more to say about that game in particular. But I do think that the Trbojevic thing needs to be stuck with for at least, I reckon, 5 games. Win, lose, or draw. Stick with it. See how it feels. See if they're happy with it.
Just a question off the cuff. Just regarding the Tigers, because it was another very poor performance, poor loss. Yet they had a few things not go their way prior to kickoff, with Lua not there during the game with the Appy injury, things like that. Not everything went their way, and I get that. But it's another loss. No Buller as well didn't help. But do you think Benji will last the preseason? of this year?
Oh yeah, I do. He lost the last 3 games by roughly a margin of 6 or less. Other until this one here, and like you just said, like he had Heath Mason at fullback. Don't get me wrong, Heath Mason's a great player, but Dream Buller's been in scintillating form this year so far. They didn't have their starting halfback. Their starting hooker was moved into halfback, and who isn't a halfback. Like they had most things that could go wrong this game sort of went wrong. It was a bit of it was one of those types of games. If you're talking about will this be the tipping point? No, it won't be. I think that it's very clear to see that the Tigers have been building and they're starting to move forward. And I saw a thing, I don't remember where I saw it, but I believe it was the CEO who came out and said that Benji's spot is safe until the contract is fulfilled at least. Because you can see that they're making strides. Like obviously, yeah, they aren't, doing incredibly. Let me have a look at the ladder. I can't remember where they were. Yeah, look, they're 14th, right? So not incredible, but I'd still say that they're playing significantly better and more consistent football than last year and the year before and the year before that, considering that they were at the bottom of the table for those 3 years the entire time. So I still think he needs to be given one more year, but after that, then I'd start asking questions.
My concern is they're only one win off last. They and we can all agree right now the Titans have been dog shit for the majority of this year. Sorry to put it bluntly, but that's probably the best way to describe it. And once again now, it feels like we're in the middle of a season and it's got messy at the Tigers very quickly again. And I feel for Tigers fans because this feels like it's just the reoccurring, never-ending story at the moment for this club. And there was so much optimism with them at the start of the year, and now they've had obviously the Galvin gone. They've had now Talon De Silva gone. 2 of their best young players in a long time have just walked out the door. Where if you ask Tigers fans at the start of the year, the reason they had so much optimism and excitement for this year and beyond was because of these 2 players, plus obviously some of the new recruits. It just feels like this big balloon was blown up at the start of the year, and now it's been completely almost to the point where there's no air left. And we've still got, what have we got? Just under 10 rounds to go for the year. Like there is still a lot of football to be played, and it could get messy. And it really could. If it does, and if they don't get at least, I reckon, 4 to 5 wins for the rest of this year, and looking ahead at their draw, it's not great. I think Benji's gone. I think it has to be made because I'll go back to the whole thing of, and we'll probably spend a bit more time on the Tigers, but for our live show, but I'll go to the point where the whole appointment of Benji Marshall for mine was screwed. Like it wasn't done the right way. It never was. And he was not ready for a head coaching role, let alone a head coaching role of an NRL team who is, he's a legend at, but they needed some serious help there. Not a rookie first grade coach who's just walking there like a deer into headlights. It just wasn't ever going to work out well. I don't think anyone could see that happening. If he had started there as like an assistant or something, done his apprenticeship, got to around 2026 or 2027, they start to really build something there. Then he walked into it, could totally understand it a lot more. It was just for mine done completely the wrong way. And yeah, I'm going to get really concerned for the Tigers this year, Jake. I really am. I just don't think much is happening. Like, look at next week's team list. Like, already they've got majority of their side out next week. Like, they've got their best players all out, whether it's through origin, injury, HIAs, suspensions, left the club. It's round 19. It's not good. Oh, sorry, round 18 next week.
Yeah. Look, it is a bit of a shambles. I do agree. But also think about how they started the season. So things happen in the middle of a season that are unpredictable, and also sort of can't be changed. Like you just said, there are injuries. Injuries, first of all, every club goes through them. I understand, and I'm not just going to put anything down to them, of course. But when was the last time Tigers had an actual proper marquee player? And I do not count Luke Brooks. A long time ago, probably when Benji was playing. To be honest with you. And so obviously they have Luai, but when he goes and when he isn't there, that's a massive, massive shot for them. Like that's huge. That's a huge, huge out. And obviously now that he's been picked for Origin, there's games where that's going to happen. And, he misses games and then he has to back up and he probably doesn't play as well as he should. I actually would go as far to say that I think that they might have stuffed up on the Coruscant re-signing if they knew Talon De Silva was going to leave because of it. I know it's hard to say, but like you just said, they were excited because they had youth coming through. They have Fainu, they have obviously Luai, who's relatively young, and Buller, pretty young spine, but still a lot of experience, especially through Luai and Coruscant. Sorry, I know Coruscant's there. You could potentially try to re-sign him. I know they signed him on, I believe, or they're still in the middle of signing for 2-3 years, something like that.
2 years.
I don't think I think give him a year and he's going to start to slow down. I do. I would have really liked to see the Tigers go, you know what? No, we're putting our faith in youth here because Talon De Silva wanted to stay. He said he would stay as long as they weren't trying to re-sign Coruscant. So I think the way I see it is they should have really tried to get after him and get that contract extension. Keep a bit of a young spine so that the fans have something to look forward to for next year. Proper something to look forward to, like with Tara May's form. Fanua Bole's been playing really well. You got the Fainu brothers coming through. Like there's a lot happening for them that is positive. And I think that's what they needed to do. I still don't think Benji's job is under any threat. But I think that they're not going to do much better than where they're at right now this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the other area of concern just quickly is the depth for this year now as well is going to be really tested because they've just lost their first choice not just lost, but they lost their first choice 5'8" a few weeks ago. Finer was awesome for a backup. Plenty reckon he should be there. He now does, but now that's testing that depth straight away. Now that's testing the hooker depth because Coruscant, we're going to see it this weekend, is out through HIA. He's out for that 11-day stand down. And now you've got Talon De Silva's left the club. Like things like that is really going to. And funny thing is, 4 to 6 weeks ago, the Tigers were in a battle to make the top 8. They were a really dead set good chance to make the top 8. Now they're in a battle to avoid the spoon once again. And I just go back to I really do feel for the fans. Looking back on things, I think they've probably handled and went about both their young guns contracts in that pretty poorly. It must be said.
Yeah.
Gavin, we all know, was not going to be there at the end of next year. We all knew that. But what I feel like the Tigers should have done, especially for their fans and how bad they've been for so many years now, suck it up, cop it for now, cop the fact that you have him not there at the club moving forward. But what you'll do is have a real good shot this year. They look like such a better team when Gavin was there. Now, Finding might be the future. We don't know that yet. But so far, they look like a better team when Gavin was there. And now the same thing's going to be said for Talon De Silva because whether it was starting or off the bench, he provided a lot for this side and would provide a lot more moving forward. And unfortunately, the management there has stuffed both and they don't even get a chance to have at least the rest of the year with them, let alone maybe potentially into another year or two post that, especially for Talon. It's just crazy the fact that they're now again in that wooden spoon battle, which they shouldn't be in this year. When you look back at what their signings were this year, they should not be in a wooden spoon battle.
No, I do agree. And it's pretty obvious to say that their signings were handled not great. And I fully agree with you. And there isn't really much more I can say about that. Like everyone knows, it's not as if it's a secret that Tigers are handling this, their re-signings and their retention and recruitment not that great. But I also can't ping that specifically on Benji either. Like the club makes decisions over his head. Like all clubs do that. So I can't pin that on Benji. And yeah, their recruitment and retention is bad. And I do fear for them. They're not going to do any better again this year. I do hope they don't get the spoon. I mean, I also hope the Eels don't get it. I'd rather the Tigers get it 4 in a row than the Eels get one. But yeah, I don't know how to get them out of it without, like, I feel like they had the structures in place for a good, like, push in maybe a year, like getting De Silva. And like you said Galvin wasn't going to leave until his contract was over. They still had 2 more years with him guaranteed. They didn't need to sign somebody, they didn't need to make such a big fuss of it. They should have just gone, right. You're here for the remainder of your contract. You get to play your top grade and whatever. It shouldn't have been. I don't actually know why he got dropped immediately after that game where he announced that he wasn't going to sign. It was still a year and a half away. They still had him for that amount of time, and the way I see it is that they should have definitely kept him. And I don't know. There isn't much more to say about it, to be fair.
The statement was dumb. we all know that. We all have said that now. So call a spade a spade. That statement that they did about him was dumb. The way they handled that short term was stupid. But yeah, moving forward, I want to talk about obviously the Wars Broncos game. First of all, atmosphere was fantastic. Well done to both sets of fans. The Warriors just getting around it. Absolutely amazing to watch. Just on the Warriors quickly, Jake, news that Luke Metcalf, I don't think the club has confirmed this yet, but it's pretty heavily rumored and almost confirmed, but not confirmed, if you get what I'm trying to say there. Lukey Metcalf, ACL, unfortunately, done for the year, and that would go into the start of next year as well, unfortunately, for Lukey Met, who relies so heavily on his running game as well. It's a huge, huge blow, and it seemed like such an innocuous blow as well, so that's horrible to see. But for mine, do you see where are you at with the Warriors now? I'll say this, and I want to know if you agree. Majority of this year so far, I've seen 2023 Warriors. The last 2 weeks, I've seen 2024 Warriors. And that hasn't been a good thing. And now they've lost, for mine, their best players so far this year in Luke Metcalf, and they have now lost for the rest of the year. I've got some concerns about the Warriors.
It's interesting you say that they've looked like the 2023 Warriors most of the year, and then the last 2 they haven't, because you know who they lost 2 weeks ago, and who I reckon is the big reason why they haven't been looking as incredible as they sort of have been? Mitch Barnett. I think, and I'll get into the Metcalf stuff in a second, but I really do think that Mitch Barnett is the main reason why. Not the main reason, but him and even when they didn't have JFH there, Mitch Barnett was taking those tough carries and just being such a threat and such a nuisance. And him being gone they've lost heaps of their go forward. JFH did nothing in that last game at all. It was a pretty poor game from him, I thought. But yeah, Metcalf being out is a massive, massive blow. They do have Tamari Martin in the stocks. I hope he just slots straight to 7. I think that's what. And they do have Tanner Boyd. I'd go Tamari Martin over Tanner Boyd to start off with, and then hopefully no other injuries happen. But if one did, then Tanner would, in my opinion, go in after that. I think Tamari Martin needs to get a crack because, to be honest with you, I feel like he should have gotten a crack early this year, and it's been a bit rough that he hasn't. I think he needs to get in there. And I remember last year, we've talked about this a few times, where when SJ was out and he took that number 7 role and was really commanding, he played some of the best football I think he's ever played. And I'd really like to see if he can do that and they can keep going forward. But 2 big losses, I think there's going to be some games where they would have won that they will start to lose, and I don't think they finish in the top 4.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. I think plenty of people, obviously the Broncos and the Roosters are the first team to think about, but honestly, the way Penrith are playing, 19 points at the moment, which is 5 points behind the Warriors, would not. I listened to a few things today on the radio and stuff like that, and there were some people out there writing Penrith off saying they'll make the 8, but they won't be in the top 4. The way they're going, I would not put them out of making the top 4. I actually think 4th spot's looking very nice for Penrith at the moment with the way Warriors are playing.
I do want to touch something on that real quick with the Panthers. I just want it to be known that there was a fair few weeks there where they obviously weren't playing that well, and you were asking me a few times in different pods, do we finally write them off? Do we finally write them off?
I wrote them off.
And you did, and I held my ground, and I said no. They're going to come back. I'm gonna hold my ground here, and I'm not gonna of it. And they're here, so not predict the future or anything, of course, but I just want to say that I held my ground and I knew the Panthers could deliver, and so far they are delivering. Not that it's done yet, but can't write them off ever. Never in a season.
I'm glad your memory is better than your internet at the moment because it's been a bit shocking. So apologies to everyone out there about that. So it's been a bit on and off for you the last minute or two. So, but we caught most of what you just said. So I get you gloating, and well done for keeping
Basically,
strong
I'm
and
right.
holding fort about the Penrith Panthers. Well done, mate. I do apologise to you Penrith fans and the Penrith club, but I'll say probably drove it. I probably drove this form on because of doubting him and saying they were done.
They all
5
watch
weeks
this and yeah,
when they were last.
That's
Mate, they
true.
all watch it. I've been told they all watch it. Let's go right on the Broncos. I'll just say that now. I don't want to spend much time on the Broncos. I'll probably bring them up again in the live show because they've turned the corner a lot. So well done to them. I think it's very well deserved. I want to talk about something that's doing my head in at the moment. This whole deliberately not packing the scrum in time, which is a penalty. For mine, it is a clear professional foul. That is the definition of a professional foul. They're doing it on purpose to get an advantage, to not have to defend a set scrum, which is obviously far less players in the defensive line, which I don't have to explain. We all know that by now. And that's a much better attacking chance for that team on the attack than it is attacking off just a tap or the ball getting kicked out for touch. This is a dead set professional foul, in my opinion. This should be a sin bin. People will then go, well, it's a scrum. You can't sin bin 6 players plus a halfback 7. No, you can't. But for mine, you can either choose to sin bin the halfback that's standing there at the halfback thing, or, and Vossi actually said on the coverage today, and I actually don't mind it, the captain at the time, which means for mine, you wouldn't muck around with it because you don't want your captain off the field. So this is a deliberate play, and if the NRL was serious, they would find a rule right now, tomorrow, and come out and say this is stopped because it's turning into a joke. We were trying to encourage scrum players at the start of the year, saying how good it's going to be having scrums and all this sort of stuff and open attack and all that sort of stuff. We're not seeing it now because teams are going out of their way deliberately to stop it. It's a joke, and we need to fix it right this second. And if the NRL was being serious about holding the integrity of their competition, they would change it tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed, not that I enjoyed the game too much, but in the Eels-Dragons game, the referee, I don't know which one it was, but I know that the referee, it happened, and then basically the next time it happened, Gutho was trying to tell them to stop, not to pack the scrum and all that, and he just stopped time. He just said, no, just get in. I don't care about the rule, basically, we're doing this because you're not abusing a rule right now. And I actually like that. I understand that it's probably technically not what he should have done, but you know what? They're trying to clearly abuse a rule to get an advantage, and I think that that's just wrong, to be honest with you. I agree with I was going to say it. I didn't know that Vossi had said that, but I actually was going to suggest the captain is the one that you ban. But the question then is, if they don't pack it in time on accident, are you still and then what's the difference? Or are you?
My comeback to that is, so far we've had this rule in for 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years. It's been around for a while now, is what I'm trying to say. It's been very rare that we haven't packed a scrum in time. I think 30 seconds for a scrum is more than enough time, we've discovered. And if you don't pack it, you're basically doing it on purpose. I think there might be, out of the 4 years, probably 2 or 3 out there that people probably pick up that go, it was a genuine accident. Majority are on purpose. So I don't think there's really the time for an accident. 30 seconds is plenty of time. Pack the scrum, and if you don't, your captain's gone for 10.
Yeah, no, I like it. I actually don't disagree with that, and it's been doing my head in too. So you know what? I'm with you. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Cheers.
How do we
NRL.
vote this in?
PVL, Abdo, whoever's listening, get us a few copies of the rugby league game, first of all. Thank you very much. And then secondly,
and then we'll forgive you.
Sure, yeah, we'll forgive you, and then make sure you get a rule change for this. And in the comments, let us know what you think. I reckon it's doing majority of fans' head in at the moment. It's just frustrating because there's so many awesome tries I can remember off scrums, off set plays and that, and we're quickly losing that again because teams are going out. And again, I've said this in the past about coaches. This is the coach's fault because they're instructing their players and teams to do this. And we sit back and go, oh, why do we have rule changes, things like that? It's because the coaches get too smart, like they've done now. They exploit small little rules and that to their own advantage, and rightly so. They're doing it in the rules at the moment, but the NRL need to come over the top of them and fix it, rub it out. Much better game moving forward. St. George Illawarra Dragons, you mentioned that game, unfortunately, Jake. Horrible first half. We said that from the Eels' point of view. But for the Dragons, I tipped the Dragons purely off the fact that it was a huge week in the media for them. We've seen a lot of teams, they bounce back from that. They really unify. That first half, I thought they really did that. The second half, they lost player after player. Then there's been articles out today about the fact that I think two other players stayed on. One of them was Lawson, who couldn't even move one of his arms apparently. So it was that bad. And I think Sewer was done. There was a few others that were just shot. They were completely shot this side. They held on for the win. Scored in the end. They basically the scoreline was great for them. It really flattered how good they were, the Dragons, and credit to them where credit's due. They've been, as I said, they've been in the media, they've been bashed. Both Flanagans have been bashed left, right, and center. Cookie stood up for him in the presser. It was a really big team effort, one that I think Dragons fans could be proud of.
I think they needed it too, to be completely honest with you. I've been seeing a lot online about, the fans bagging out Flanagan, and I think somewhat rightly so. But at the same time, somewhat, coaches, if it wasn't his son, if Kyle Flanagan wasn't his son and he was still sticking it out, would there be an issue? Is the question I kind of have. Because obviously, Kyle hasn't been having his best games, but also he's not necessarily been the problem at the Dragons either. There's been other issues, many other issues, as the reason they're not winning games. And I think they really needed to sort of come together and do what they did. That being said, I don't know what happened in the second half. So they obviously came out in that first half and they had us. They were really aggressive and they were really together. And they had a tactic in there that surprised me a little bit by kicking two Lomax on on kicks and sort of not letting him then take that next hit, like come across and take that next hit up and get early meters. It was actually quite smart. Like they tied him out a lot. But yeah, I think they needed to come together and kind of shut the haters up a little bit there. And they did. I think they did the right. They played well.
And
brave effort.
Mentioned it in the presser that forwards have been a bit of an issue for the Dragons. So I get that. Their forward pack for mine isn't up there with one of the better forward packs and gets dominated most of the time. And I get the fact that the halves then are impacted on how they can play off that. But at the same time, calling again a spade, unfortunately, I feel like the kicking game of their halves has not been quite up to par for a majority of the year either. And that does come back down to the Flanagan. It comes back to King Tongia as well. All that sort of I know. I don't think Flanagan's been one of their better players. I think that was a crazy comment to say. I don't think he's probably been their worst player either. I think he's been probably middle of the pack. But at the same time, there has been areas of his game where they have been poor, and that has to be called out at times.
Of course.
And I know there's some big things happening at the moment in social media and all that sort of jazz. Not getting into it, but I feel like at the time it is what it is. But well done to the Dragons. They much needed victory. Very disappointed Parramatta fan. I'll say that right now. It was a game that should have been 2 points in the bag, and we definitely let that slip. Again, that first half was really, really poor, really disappointing. And I think I've said it in a few of the comments and that people have probably seen it now, but second half, we're on top. Joash Papali absolutely tearing it apart. And then so same with Dylan Walker. And then we're 6 points off and Riles takes them both off for Lussick and Hopgood, who both are not known for their attack. No disrespect there, but both have been not known for their attack. One in Hopgood is probably in some of the worst form he's ever been in as a player. And I just didn't get it. It was straight away. As soon as they both came on, the wind came straight out. I know the Adokar play was a tough one for mine. His foot looked like it just touched the line, unfortunately. I think it just
I think it was out. I do think it was out.
I think it was. So right call. It was unfortunate, but at the same time, we still had him on the ropes. Should have put a few more. And I think if Joash and Walker stay on in the field, we would have put probably a 2 more, 3 more tries on. And that for there, Riles is doing a lot of good things, but he'll learn from that. And hopefully he doesn't make that mistake again. And know when we need to score points, keep your best attacking players on the field.
Green shoots are coming through for the Eels. It is obvious that there is a direction, and they look a little bit more together as a unit than they have in the last 2 or 3 years. Like I said at the start of this year, we could get the spoon, and I'd still stick by Riles for the next year. And to be honest with you, we are obviously down low on the ladder, but God, I'm seeing improvement from the team we were at the start of the year to now. And I just think that I think we're just going to keep going. I think the Eels are just going to keep improving, and that's where I'm at with them. So, look, a tough loss. No, we're not going to win the comp this year. I'll be honest with you. No, we're not going to win the comp this year. But
really,
geez, can I see some improvement for the future?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Last point of the night before we leave, and I've got to bring them back up. Sorry, to the fan group because they've been through it the last few weeks, especially from us. But it's not going to stop. It's going to get louder, unfortunately. It's probably going to get louder from a lot of other media out there. Cronulla Sharks, Jake. Another loss on the week today for those listening live, but probably those listening would be tomorrow. 30 points to 6 against the Storm. They were quite brave to start this, and then the Storm just ran away with it in the second half. So the effort originally was there for the Sharks. I'm not going to bag that. But then as the game got into it, as it got to an arm wrestle, as we're waiting again for the halves to step up and make some big moves, and forward pack led by AFB to start making some big runs and plays, it didn't quite happen. The back line again didn't work. It didn't do what it probably should have done. Really disappointing performance in the end by the Cronulla Sharks. And it sort of put me off. Looking at the ladder, they're now 10th. Felt like 3 or 4 weeks ago they were on the edge of the fall, and they were not doing much, but they were doing enough to go, oh, all right, they'll probably somehow sneak in the top 4 by the end of the year. I'm dead set right now, struggling to see them making the 8 the way they're playing. I think they're quickly, and I said this the other week, I did cop a little bit from it, and I think there was some surprise listeners when I said it, but it felt like last year was the peak of that premiership window. And yes, I know AFB's come to the club and is prize signing, but you think about some of the other little players they've lost and some of the impact that they've had that's probably weighed that up a little bit more. And for mine, it just seems like a very stale squad. It just really, really stale from fullback all the way through to their reserves. It's just a very stale side that I think is on the decline now. I think that needs a huge freshen up. And I question Fitzy because I don't think he's got it in him to make some of those hard calls that need to be made.
I didn't agree with you last week, but I am starting to. I don't think it's a team in need of a full rebuild. That's not where I'm at with the Sharks. I think it's a team in need of 2 or 3 players getting switched, maybe just some new energy around the club. That's all I'm thinking. But to be honest with you, if you're looking at this game in particular, I know for a while I haven't been the stats guy recently on the Sunday show, but I will be this time. The Sharks, if you look at the entire game, right, only 4 players in the entire Sharks lineup ran for over 100 meters. Fanil Blake just quietly was one of those. He ran 13 times for 125 meters, which is freaking huge. But only 4 players ran for over 100 meters, and that just isn't good enough. Their back 5 didn't do enough. Not even cool. I mean, Talakai did. He ended up playing in the centers, I believe. And Ronaldo did. But then you had Jesse Ramian running for 60 meters for 10 runs. And that's just, to be fair, that one there is not good enough. And then Will Kennedy had a very quiet game with 15 runs for 76 meters. That's a lot of runs for no meters. So, and that's there, to be fair, is full credit to the Storm for shutting them down. And Storm are a top quality side, but that's twice in a row where I've kind of thought the Sharks should have at least competed better than they did. They looked great against the Broncos, but they still lost the game. they still found a way to lose that game, and they should have won. That should have been unlosable from where they were in that position in it. So I don't know what to do with them, and I don't know who you'd swap either. Like unless they're obviously losing Atkinson, but he's not playing. Like he's not going to be with them next year, and he's not playing for big minutes now. Do you swap out a forward? Like Oregon Kafusi ran 8 times for 55 meters across 50 minutes. That's not good enough. And I know that he doesn't do. He has games like that where he just doesn't do the work. So I don't know.
I've said it for a while now. They won't challenge for a competition with Will Kennedy in fullback. I know he had a good start to the year, but I think we're all seeing now start of the year doesn't really mean much in this competition anymore. I think a lot of teams they time their runs, things like that. We are starting to see the cream of the crop starting to rise, while we're seeing some of the pretenders, I'll say, start to really get found out for what they're doing. So, and I just think it was quite funny that Kennedy was going well when a few of the main sort of guys weren't doing too much, probably timing things again. I feel bad. I always feel bad talking about him. I always do, because he's such a great bloke. We all know that he's one of the real good guys of the game. But Nico, they're not getting that 1.1 or whatever it is he's on now value out of him at all. And
no, God no.
It's a huge issue for this team, for this club. And I'm very, very curious as an outsider to watch how this unfolds. Now, I'm not predicting anything will happen soon. If they were fair income about winning a comp this year, it would. But I don't think Fitzy has it in him to do it. He's shown so far. He's been there for what, 4 years now. He hasn't really done much in terms of doing those big, huge, harsh calls. So he won't make any of them. We know that by now. I'm interested to see what happens, whether there's contract extension talks coming at some point, and what happens when Nico is out of contract, because that's, for mine, is 1.1 million that needs to go elsewhere. You're right. I think there needs to be 2 or 3 key players in this side that needs to move, and it needs to be a bit of a shake up that way. And because this style that Cronulla they've played it for 3 years now. Everyone knows what they're going to do, and they haven't really adapted to it at all. And that's a huge concern, because again, they were in a premiership window. I believe the window has closed. There's some out there that believe they've still got a chance this year. I'm not one of them, but there's some big calls that needs to start happening at this football club. It's a blow they've got. Atkinson's leaving next year, but I would use this to try and win a comp this year. And in my opinion, Atkinson needs to be in their run on 13 somewhere. They're a better side with him in that side, and they need to make it work, and they need to make it happen. I'm just very curious and very keen to watch what happens moving forward with this side.
I think I'd like to see, and I know it's a huge call here. I think I would like to see them let Nico go. Let him, if he's willing to and he wants to go somewhere else. I think I'd be saying, we basically want to let you go, and I think I'd be trying my ass off to get Toby Sexton right now. I'd be trying to not make the switch mid-season, of course, but I'd be trying to get Sexton across now. That's for sure. I'd try and get him across as soon as possible if you could. But if not for next year, Nico out, that gives them a bit of extra money to spend on a forward. Not that there are many, as we know, there are not many available. But you never know what you can do with like a player who's available off contract 2026, try and get him across early and that type of thing. Like it is possible. That's kind of the way I think I'd be going. I just don't think that Hines, he's just lost it a little bit, and I think he's lost confidence ever since that first ever Origin. To be honest with you, where all that stuff happened, I think he's been done since then. His confidence has been shot for a while now, and I just think, yeah, let him go, move on while you've still got a squad that can win a comp.
And again, it was just, and I'm just gonna say it now, I'm gonna stop apologizing about saying stuff about him because he's such a nice guy. Like, it comes with the territory of being a $1 million plus player in your team. And it is what it is. It is what happens. And Nico, for mine, hasn't been that guy again today. For mine, he went missing. He was not part of the result. Didn't help the result at all, and that's a huge concern for the Cronulla Sharks moving forward. And I agree with you. I think it's a massive call, but it's probably a call I would make as well. I would probably say to Nico, you are free to leave. It's a big call, but we're sitting here saying the Sharks need to make a big call to do something with this roster. They just need a shake-up. And unfortunately, Nico might be that guy so they can go and get better value out for – like, they can get Sexton for probably what? Let's say 500K.
No, probably more like 7. 7, to be honest. Let's go on now.
Okay, even 7. They've still saved themselves 400 or so on what they're paying currently for Nico, and they could go out and get themselves a pretty decent – probably backline player, in my opinion. I think the backline, a lot of people out there say their backline is good. I actually think it's a bit overrated. I don't think it's that good. Like, I think Mulatalo and Kantoa are pretty good finishers, and they can have weeks where they can get some good meters off hit-ups and things like that. But there's just something missing. Like, Iro's a gun.
I think maybe centers. Yeah, you got Iro there missing at the moment, so maybe another center if you were going
to fit the whole.
If you're going to let Raymond go, you could let Raymond go and get good value for him, and then maybe get another center. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Just a little shake up, just something. They just need to change the style up and have a couple of players come in that will change it. Like for mine, they're missing Jack Williams a lot this year. Like what he's giving para is exactly what the Sharkies need from someone right now, and it's just funny that they didn't really prioritize keeping him, because now being at my club and watching him a bit closer, he's a gun. Like he's a really good player, and exactly what that Cronulla Sharks pack and club need, and they're just not getting. So, but who are we? We aren't getting paid the big bucks. Let us know in the comments, Sharkies fans, what you think, because there's some big calls I feel like going to be made around your club shortly. That's it. That's all we've got time for tonight. Huge episode, plenty of talking points. I feel like there's still so many talking points we haven't even got to yet, so make sure you're there for the Wednesday night live show. There will be plenty more to talk about. It was a huge show on the last week, just getting bigger and bigger, those numbers, so make sure you're there, Facebook or YouTube, to be part of the action. Thank you, Jakey boy. Go and recover. Go get the ice bath or whatever you got to do, and get ready for who you got next week, the pumpkin pickers.
No, mate. No, I'm off for the next 2 weeks. I am on school holidays, so I'll be heading back home to see the family. So I'll be back in after 2 weeks to play again. Big recovery.
Big out already. 1 week and he's out for 2. There's a nickname for those, but we won't go into that live on this show. But thank you, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe button. Catch us on the social media pages. Just type in League of Inches, whichever social media pages you have. Chuck us a follow there. Get involved with the comments on any of the posts. Appreciate it. And we will speak to you soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye.